Hello, and welcome to DY's November Legend Banner Review Xmas Edition. As Water Guild War comes to a close, we get a little bit of a break as we get some new Christmas characters onto the banner. But before we get into the characters, I just want to mention that on Sunday 10th of December at 11 AM JST, I'm hosting a fun, silly event called the GBF Game Awards, the Granblue Fantasy Game Awards. Definitely not ripped off from the actual Game Awards. But anyways, the voting for that is open. So please click the Google form link in the description below to get your say in who wins Element of the Year amongst other categories. But yeah, I'll talk about it a bit more at the end of the video, but yeah, that's it for now. Anyways, enough of that. Let's get right into talking about the new holiday characters. First up, we have Holiday Yuni, a dark character focused on charge attacks and providing team support with her sustain. Similar to her Grand version, this Yuni also features linked skills that revolve around a stack-based system rather than a traditional cooldown. Her primary way of gaining stacks is through her first skill, which provides the team with 15% charge bar and a 2-turn cut to debuff durations. This skill is also activated through her charge attack, so the more she cycles her Ogies, the more stacks she will gain. The 2-turn cut to debuff durations can be somewhat relevant. We have units like Fire and Earth Satyr that use a similar mechanic quite effectively, as many powerful debuffs in the game cannot be removed, so reducing their durations is one of the better ways to deal with them. Her final way to gain her stacks is through her first passive. By activating a full chain, you will get 1 stack alongside a heal, which is dependent on the number of chains you perform. Her 3 remaining skills use the stacks that you've accumulated, with S2 using up 7 stacks and both S3 and S4 using 10 stacks. On paper, skills 3 and 4 just don't really seem worth it. Due to how long it takes to get to 10 stacks, we're really looking at something like an initial lockout and cooldown of like somewhere between 6 to 8 turns. For something with that high of an entry cost, the buffs just don't seem worth it. Looking at S3 first, it's a 3-turn light switch, 30% armor, and a 1-time fail. Yeah. Maybe in practice it will be a little better, but I just don't think that this should cost 10 stacks. S4 is a better use of the stacks than S3, but I still don't think it's worth it. Now you might ask, hey DY, how come it's not worth it? It gives you a bunch of CA cap, supplemental damage, and also makes it easier to proc her full chains, which activate her first passive. And to answer this, we need to have a look at a second skill. This particular skill costs 7 stacks, unlike the other 2, and it provides a unit on your team with 100% charge bar and a 1-time CA reactivation. If we do a tiny bit of quick maths here, assuming absolute perfect conditions where you are hard capping your charge attack damage and you have enough raw attack or buffs to cap the additional special CA cap brought by her 4th skill, you barely do more damage than just using Uni S2 on somebody. And in a more realistic situation where you are unable to cap the special CA cap, S2 just flat out outdamages S4. And it costs 3 stacks less, so you are able to use it more frequently. Now you do lose the ability to activate her first passive a little bit easier, but the thing is her S2 already covers 2 out of the 4 charge attacks that you need to proc it in the first place. So I don't think that effect is particularly too impactful either. So to sum it up, I think S3 and S4 seem very undertuned compared to how many stacks they require, and I think in most cases just using her S2 will be the way to go. Overall, Yuni seems to be a niche charge attack support who will probably only be relevant in harder content like Cosmos or Hexachromatic Hierarch, and unlikely to see use elsewhere. She will probably enable a charge attack loop team, sort of like Monica in Earth, so perhaps she will see some use in a Kango team of that sort. Moving on to Illnott. We have a high damage per turn, skill damage unit that also provides utility with consistent dispels and delays. She has a unique stack which is raised whenever she or any other light ally uses a red bordered damage skill. Let's take a look at her kit. Her S1 provides a permanent 5% defense down debuff that stacks up to 15% at 3 casts and also supplements skill damage by 10,000, which goes up to 30,000. At max stacks, if you cast the skill, it also provides Veil. This is a solid debuff which is quite universal and will benefit most teams. Her S2 will delay and remove a buff from the enemy. At max stacks, it will activate twice. Now both skills here, S1 and S2's cooldowns will be reset when you charge attack. Finally, her third skill here can only be used at max stacks, but it does a huge amount of skill damage and gives a permanent buff that increases all light ally skill damage and reduces the cooldowns of red bordered skills by 1 turn. And then her passive 1 provides Illnott with a bunch of buffs that are based on her stacks and also does a skill nuke anytime an ally auto attacks, sort of like how Harcelia S4 works. Unlike Harcelia, however, it does significantly less damage as it only has 60,000 base damage, and it also does not activate at all if you're on 0 stacks. So you will need to click at least one red button to get some amount of damage. Illnott has a really simple to understand kit and will very likely be relevant for NM150 and NM200 full auto for Guild War. She synergizes really well with other skill damage units like Mana Diver and most notably Aglavale. With him and Illnott alone, you can reach 7 stacks on turn 1. But even without him, you should reach 7 stacks without too much trouble with her cooldown reset. She's unlikely to be used in manual due to how many buttons she requires and her damage nuke's not providing that much, but overall, she looks pretty solid and looks really good for full auto. And finally, the 2 raid ups for the banner, we have Wilnas and Percival. First up is Weapon Firestorm Scythe. You will only ever really need 1 copy of this weapon, and it's not too high of a priority to bar. It's primarily only used in double Agni setups due to its weapon skills, and even then, it can ultimately be replaced by some other options like Atum Staff, for example. Wilnas himself, however, is an incredibly powerful offensive unit, and used in pretty much most forms of content, from full auto to OTK to manual burst and even hard content. Yeah, the character's quite good. In manual, he most notably forms the Holy Trinity for fire alongside Mikhail and our next raid up character, Percival. Percival. Yeah, this character's nuts, so. In a vacuum, he is probably the best character in the entire game. Similar to Wilnas, he's pretty much used everywhere for fire, and you are guaranteed to see him in the upcoming January Fire Guild War. He provides so much extra firepower for many team setups, and also has some really powerful utility skills to pair alongside them. His strength in the meta really cannot be understated. In a similar vein, his weapon Lord of Flames is also really important. In Agni grids, you want up to 3 copies of this, and you can use 0-star copies in certain Magna grids as well. So, with all of this in mind, is it worth to spark? Yesn't. Let me explain. I feel that there are 2 situations where this banner is very worth it. Situation number 1, you want Makura. This is your last chance to spark Makura before she goes on a break in 2024. You will not be able to spark her again until 2025. If you don't want to wait until then, sparking her now is your only option. And then, situation number 2. You want to start or improve your Agni grid. This banner does have a raid up on Lord of Flames, which you do want multiple copies of, so sparking here can be mathematically advantageous for that. However, I do feel that with the quality of the seasonal units and with roulette discounted banners just around the corner, it is ultimately better to save for most people. If you have somewhere around 300 pulls right now, you should be able to spark twice over December 28th Flash, which is a guaranteed new grand, and the New Year's banner, which will have the Zodiac and an Untixable Summon, which in my opinion is a much better deal than sparking on this current banner. Alright, and that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully it was helpful. I'll be streaming the GBF versus Rising stream this weekend, so come hang out on Twitch if you would like to watch that. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, The votes for the 2023 GBF Awards are open, link in the description below. I hope you guys have as much fun answering the questions as I did making them. And just as a side note, I am truly sorry if your favorite character or event, etc. didn't make the list. It was my first time making anything like this, so I know I made some mistakes, and hopefully next year we can make it even better. The results will be announced live on my Twitch channel next Sunday, the 10th of December at 11 AM JST. So I hope you guys are excited for that. I've received so many more responses in the poll than I had ever hoped, so I'm pretty excited and also feeling a little pressured, to be honest. But anyways, that's it from me. Good luck if you're pulling, stay strong if you're saving, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.